Hey everyone, I'm excited to be introducing Module 5's film Past Lives. It was released last year to much acclaim. It received a well-deserved Oscar nomination for Best Picture, and it was personally one of my favorites for top films of 2023. We are talking about independent film in this week's module, along with world cinema. Although a third of this movie is in Korean, because it deals with two characters who first met in Korea. It is not an international film. It is an American independent film, and it meets a lot of the criteria of that, which we'll talk about. But it does blend in that aspect that you'll be watching a lot of scenes with subtitles. So let's talk a little bit about its history. It premiered at the Sundance Film Festival in January 2023. And I mentioned in the PowerPoint, the Sundance Film Festival has been a platform for introducing a lot of great independent films. And the independent film movement, of course, got a lot of fuel in the 90s with successful films such as Pulp Fiction and Good Will Hunting. In the 80s, the Sundance Film Festival was co-created by actor and filmmaker, director Robert Redford, who named the festival after his iconic character in the 1969 film Butch Cassidy and the Sundance Kid, for which he played the Sundance Kid. So she premiered successfully. Director-writer Celine Song, who is a major talent to watch. She is the writer and director of this film. She premiered it at Sundance for acclaim, and then it became an acclaimed hit and was released by a distributor, A24. And they've made a lot of great films, such as The Whale, The Florida Project. They're known for their quality films. Again, an independent film is always a film that is not financed by Hollywood or a Hollywood studio. It's financed privately, and then usually a distributor such as A24, Lionsgate, names like that. They will release the film. But let's get into the film. Past Lives is a very poetic, lyrical, romantic look at two characters over a 24-year span. In the film, we meet Nora and Hae, well played by Greta Lee and Tae Yoo, who are childhood sweethearts in Korea. They are 12 years old when we first meet them. They have a bond together. It looks like they're going to probably fall for each other and remain friends for life. But there's a conflict. Nora's family is going to immigrate to North America, to Canada, so they are parted at age 12. And the film then moves forward 12 years later, where Nora's character discovers Hae on Facebook and reaches out to him at that time by Skype, and they connect remotely, as we often do in contemporary times, talk about each other's lives, where they are, their hopes. She's a writer at this time in New York City, and she's pursuing that and in her artistic creativity. And at that point in the film, it moves forward again 12 years when they're in their 30s at this point. Nora has married Arthur, an American, and he's a filmmaker. She's a writer, and they are working as creative artists in New York City. Hae is still, of course, living in Korea at this point when they're in their 30s, but Hae has decided to come to New York to visit and, of course, reconnect and see his childhood friend Nora again. So this is the plot. Interestingly enough, director Celine Song, again, who is a major talent, she based this on an actual event in her life. She was in a New York City East Village bar with her American husband, meeting with her childhood Korean sweetheart who was visiting. And they were in this bar in kind of an awkward situation where she was translating between the two men, getting them to know each other. And we do see this scene at the beginning of the film, and we see this scene toward the end. It's a very a pivotal scene in the movie. But this is a very personal film, as a lot of independent films are, because the filmmaker based it on an actual incident in her life and then build characters around it. Some things to look at in this film. Again, it's not a foreign film or an international film, but it does deal with the contrasts between East and West cultures, because now Nora has adapted to American life. She has been raised here, but she is going to be confronted almost with a hologram of her past when, hey, comes back to New York. So it's looking at this dynamic of East and West culture, and there are different boundaries to how love is portrayed. It's much more distant in East culture. There's not as much physical contact, hand holding. You see in the scenes with her husband the intimate contact, and we do see that really very well put in this movie. Another thing to look for in this film is that it's very lyrical. It builds on small moments to a very gut-wrenching conclusion. One difference with independent films are they're very character-driven. They're not broad, and they're not written in a way where an audience expects things. Usually in a romantic film, we expect a very happy, satisfying ending. This ending is a little gut-wrenching. It's a little more realistic. It shows a reality rather than what an audience may want to see. And I think that makes it not only real, but personal. And that's what I love about independent films so much. A couple things I want you to watch. Greta Lee is just terrific in the film. In fact, at the beginning of the film, in the bar scene, she does break the fourth wall and look at us in the audience. So almost telling us that she's going to bring us into the story. And then we're going to see her character and the character of Hae as 12-year-olds in Korea. Then we're going to see them again 12 years later in their 20s. Then we'll meet them now with this reconnection, almost a resurrection. The director kind of wisely said she was almost resurrecting these characters when they meet again in their 30s. They're different now. Their destinies have taken different paths. They have different looks at life. He's looking at life from an Eastern culture perspective. She's from a Western. She has a husband. And toward the end of the film, in the bar, those two men meet those two men have met in the apartment, but they get to talk and have their first conversation with each other. Interesting thing in this film to note is director Celine Song physically kept her actors away from each other. She kept Greta and Teo away from each other physically. They did rehearse the lines and all that together, but she didn't allow them to touch or be physical until their scenes were filmed. And she kept the character of Arthur, well played by John Magaro. She kept the two male characters completely apart until their first scene together, where they meet each other at the apartment, and then they go to the bar. This is really a good way of bringing a realism on screen with the actors, because we're seeing very real moments. And again, this is something we see often in independent film. While you're watching this film, I just want you to look at how this film is telling a story a bit differently than you would with a conventional Hollywood film. Note the character drivenness of it. Note the poetic framing and cinematography and what the story is telling you in small lyrical moments that kind of build to something. And what it really has to say about destiny and the reality of contemporary perspective with what the past has. I hope you enjoy the film. I thought it was one of the best films of 2023, and I look forward to your discussion on it.